Welcome to the Forever Better Academy podcast, where you will be given the principles, tools, and techniques to reach the next stage on your journey of self-mastery. Who could you become? I'm your host, Wade Vincent. If you don't know what matters to you, are you really surprised that you can't make good decisions? Right, my name is Wade Vincent. Thank you for joining me today on the latest episode of the Forever Better Academy podcast. So, what I want to go through with you guys today is defining your priorities. Okay, this is the foundation of virtually all of your journey of self-mastery and discovery of who you can become, right? So, if you don't truly know what your priorities are, you can't possibly take any actions or make decisions that are going to have the most impact or value in your life, because you don't really have a clear path of where you're wanting to go and who you are. Okay, so probably the easiest way that I can sum this up, right, is life is made up of a series of different events and experiences that we go through that ultimately shape us and define who we are. So this could be anything based on how we have been conditioned or learnt to respond to certain things, or how we decide that things will affect us, or how we are going to interpret what we're experiencing, right? So we are really, our identity, who we are, is really a collection of experiences and beliefs that we tell ourselves, and that shapes us. That's why every single person on this planet is unique, because no one else in the entire world goes through the exact same experiences that you do. And this is why every person in the planet has something valuable to add that no one else can contribute. We all have value to bring to the table, right? So I honestly believe that every single one of us really wants to make good decisions that move us forward, and they should align with what we've defined as our priorities in life. So that's a key thing, right? You if you know, as an example, right? Let's say, like when you're a little kid, and most little kids get drawn to some type of career or a profession, and they see, like let's say a little boy, right, the first time, or a little girl sees a bright red fire engine drive down the road, and they're just like, wow, like captivated, right? And there's something, that impact that it makes an impression. It puts this imprint on them to inspire them, perhaps that it's done something and drawn them in a way that they decide, like a little kid would say to you, I want to be a fireman or a firewoman, right? That's a normal thing that I think is the universal experience, right? That you're considering and learning and understanding your environment, and really getting to know what appeals to you, what's important to you, what matters to you, what you like, what you dislike. And if you want, for example, that child, right, that is considering, being a firefighter, they usually will start to act and behave with certain patterns and traits, and the way they approach things is congruent with that desire to be a firefighter, right? You'll see, like at a kindergarten, right, a little kid dresses up in the firefighter costume, and they'll imagine and play and pretend and do those things, right? Because on a small scale, or at the capacity that they're able to do so, this is their actions aligning with what they've defined as their priority. They want to be a firefighter, so they're going to follow on and mimic what they've seen and do what they believe that entails, right? So I genuinely feel that that's a universal thing. We all want to make good decisions that move us forward and progress us through our lives towards our desires, our goals, our ambitions, right? So this is why it's so important, because if you don't define your priorities, if you aren't clear on the direction you're heading in, you're spinning your wheels, right? You're just motion for the sake of motion, right? You might feel like you're active and you're doing something, but if you haven't clearly defined your priorities, how can you measure your results and honestly understand if there's any merit or value in the actions that you're taking? Right? That it might feel good, you might feel productive, and that you're taking action, but how do you know there's any value in it if you haven't clearly defined your priorities, right? So, as I said, you can't make good decisions if you don't have an end goal in mind, right? Now, society almost has there's this I guess there's a format and a formula and structure. Everything in the universe, in the observable universe, has patterns, right? Now, I've spent a lot of my journey of my own personal development and self mastery looking for patterns and understanding that the rules and the concepts and the structure of the game is present in many different levels and layers. So when you start to see that commonality and understand the rules, you're able to, as I say, align your decisions and your priorities accordingly, and your actions to navigate your environment and make sure that you're getting the most out from your efforts, right? So, as I say, society has a structure that's in place that has evolved over time due to the actions and process that have been put in place by those that came before us, from our ancestors, and every generation ultimately contributes their understanding and what they can offer to move us forward as a species and a society, right? So we all want to grow and improve and get better and make the future better for the people to follow on from us, right? Especially if you're a parent, that's weighs heavy on your mind. It's very important. It's front of mind. So now sometimes it can really feel like, because of that sort of formula structure to society, it can often feel like we're ticking boxes, right, and living up to what society tells us we should be doing, and when we should be doing it by, right? So almost defining our priorities for us on our behalf, right? So if you think about the usual thing, like where I can only speak from my direct experience in a Western culture, but from my understanding, there is a lot of similarities globally, where there's the usual format of find a life partner, be educated, get yourself a tertiary education, or develop your skills in a way that will be valuable and contribute to society. Get your financial success in play, get your security in place. Obviously provide a home, buy a house. The usual, right? Have children. This is all these sort of fairly consistent and standard patterns, as I said, in society. So sometimes if you aren't clear on your priorities, society is going to define them for you, right? And this is why I feel a lot of people who haven't clearly articulated what's important and what those priorities are for them individually, you get through those points where you've ticked the boxes. You've got a higher education, you own a home, you have a lovely wife or husband, you have the 2.3 children and a pet dog and a white picket fence, and you're miserable. Right? Because those things might not necessarily be the things that that excite you or ignite you or drive you or give your life a sense of purpose. Those are wonderful things, and if you have the opportunity and the freedoms and the ability to have those things, those are blessings, absolutely. But you can't define your purpose and priority in life around buying a house, right? That's just a portion of it, right? It's not. Yeah, and maybe for some people that might absolutely define their priorities and their entire purpose. They might have come from, a situation where they've, generations of their family have never had that ability or had their own home, and that could be everything to change the generational gap and the wealth and establish your family, right? And opportunities for them. So absolutely, I understand that could be someone's priority, but for some people it may not be, and if we're talking in the sense of following on and sort of conforming to society's expectation of what we should want from our lives, often it leaves us empty, right? And not satisfied and not fulfilled, right? Okay, so and that leads on to that internally, when you think about that, it's without that guiding compass, right, that clearly defined priority that you have set for yourself, even the best intentions leave you wandering without a clear path to follow. So you can have the best of intentions. As I say, you're taking action, you're doing the things that you've been told or feel are right or think are right, but are they right for you? Do they align with the priorities you've set for yourself, right? If you're, to take the example earlier with the child, if you're anticipating growing up to be a firefighter, you don't go to medical school, right? It has no relevance to what you've defined as your priorities for your life, right? And you must do this. This is absolutely critical, and this is a key thing. It's a foundation for you to find joy and success in your life, because you have decided and given your life a sense of purpose. You've given yourself direction. You've given yourself a goal and something to work towards, right? And I've always love the concept, right? If you have hope, if you have faith, and you believe in something, and you got something to work towards, and you know that there's possibility, you have everything in the world. That's everything. When you have hope, you have everything, right? So you need to clearly define those priorities to give yourself the same opportunities to succeed, because you've made the call, right? No one else can do this for you. And this is a lot of times, like you'll see, especially for the younger generation, like younger kids listening and watching this, if you follow, what your parents have laid out for you, your parents have knowledge and understanding of how to best prepare and position yourself for success, and the sort of key things you need to do to give yourself the best chance to succeed in life and society, but they may not be in your best interest, right? If you've ever been like, say you're just in ending high school now, right, and your parents are putting pressure on you to go to university or college, and they want you to be a certain career, they want you to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, an architect, a business analyst, a software developer, whatever it may be. If that doesn't align with who you are and why you're here, you won't feel fulfilled. You can't outsource the decision around your life's purpose and priorities to anyone else. It's a blessing and a wonderful opportunity to be able to freely choose what you do with your life. But it's also daunting and scary, because you can't rely on anyone else to make the call for you. And if you succeed or fail rather, I should say, it's on you. But that's not a bad thing. That's empowering. It gives you the keys, right? You're in the driver's seat, and you have that ability to determine the effort you put in and the results you're going to derive from your efforts. So you need that clear path. You've got to have that path to follow. You have to define your priorities, right? So, and I think, this is in my experience with how I've gone through the first 38 years of my life. Naturally, my priorities have changed. I've had desires and ambitions and career goals in mind that I've pursued wholeheartedly, and sometimes the stars haven't aligned, and perhaps the timing wasn't right, and it doesn't always work out. But then you evolve from that and grow and learn and take your experiences that as I said in the beginning, that shape you and define who you are, and you internalize them, use them to define what's the next thing from you. What's your next priority? Where are you going? What do you want to be the next stage, the next step in your life, right? So if you haven't done those things, you're gonna be hit with a brick wall. And this is kind of what happened for me personally. My experience of tying so much of my identity to my ambition in my 20s, my late teens and 20s, to be a rap star, a hip hop artist, and that was everything. For those of you that you've listened to the podcast before, I've spoken about this a few times. It really was. There was no other choice. I was all in, right? 100%. I was committed to it, and when it didn't play out as like I would have liked it to, it's a very strange feeling, but also I'm grateful for that experience because I can grow from it. And when that occurred, so much of my identity was tied to those beliefs and the stories I was telling myself about who I am. And when that doesn't materialize, you can feel like all of a sudden you're lost without an identity of who you are and what you're doing. It's a weird thing. It's a blessing in that it's a clean slate and you can make decisions to propel yourself forward from that point. And looking back now, it's easy to be like, wow, that was a great opportunity for me to use and implement all these lessons that I have been gifted with to see what outcome I can deliver for myself, my life, my family. Different story when I was there. It was, I think, probably a good 6 months of just like feeling lost and wandering aimlessly, not really knowing where I was going or who I was anymore. And I couldn't have possibly have expected to navigate through my life in some effective way, because from that point I had no priority. It wasn't clear cut, and I had to redefine my priorities. I had to. If you've ever heard the saying that I think is very powerful, if you're unclear on your purpose in life, right, and you're trying to find out why you're here, a very powerful saying is, your mess is your message, right? That this is the best place to focus. If you're unsure, what's the mess going on in your life? What are you struggling with? What's keeping you awake at night? What's frustrating you? What's the thing that you feel is the obstacle and is holding you back? There's 9.9 times out of 10, that's the thing you need to focus on, right? That's the message. That's what you need to resolve and figure out and conquer and understand and master, and then use that to tell your story, to spread that to the world and bring value to others, right? That's like 100% for me. It was trying to understand how best to navigate life and find those patterns, the tools, traits, the techniques, the principles that I can live by to live my best life and become better and the best version of myself every day, and see where I can take this. And when I understood that, that's why I do the podcast. That's why I create the content I do. That's why I build the courses that I do, because these things that this was my mess, and I've been blessed with support and great mentors and guidance and advice that has helped me to better navigate my life and my purpose and what I can add to society. And then now I understand that that's my message. I can use that, right? I can tell the story because I've lived it. You're speaking from experience, right? So who better to explain whatever situation that you're going through than yourself? No one else has gone through it in the way that you have. A lot of people will have similar experiences that they can relate to you, and they can gain value and strength and support from what you do and what you offer. They will never have the identical story to you, but there may be like a 90%, 95% overlap that you can benefit them and change their lives with your message, right? So defining that priority from the vantage point of what you're going through. You know, there's a if you've ever heard of an author called Ryan Halliday, I think it's Halliday, maybe Ryan Holiday. I think it's Halliday. He wrote a book called The Obstacle is the Way. Same concept, right? The thing that's in your face, that's in your way, that you feel is blocking you from progressing and moving forward in life, that's the thing you need to focus on. That's the thing that's going to propel you and push you forward, right? That's going to help you to define your priorities with that thing, right? The obstacle. Your mess is your message, right? So the coolest thing when you get to that realization, once you have the destination, you can plot the course. Right, there's, as I said before, if you're taking action in all these momentum, you're moving, you're creating motion, and you're doing things, that's absolutely vital and important at the beginning, and it's far better than standing still doing nothing. Well, once you've learned how to be productive and have a good work ethic and do those things, you need to refine it, bring that laser focus, sharpen it down and understand, niche down, what am I trying to achieve? What's the priority? Set that end goal, right? And when you do that, like I've talked about the concept a few times in the past of reverse engineering. So it's like, one of my mentors, tell you a story, gives me this great analogy, like often, and I find it very helpful for me. So maybe you'll find it helpful as well, right? So if you jump into your car, and most cars nowadays, especially like all the modern cars, I'd say almost every car nowadays has a navigation system built in, and if not, definitely has capability to connect your phone and integrate the map system from your phone. Now, when you jump into a car and you're planning to go somewhere, you key in the end destination on the phone or on the car screen, right? You type in where you want to go, and the car navigates with the GPS, backtracks, reverse engineers from the end point where you're trying to get to where you are, and shows you the path. It's the exact same concept, the same principle, right? Imagine if you got in your car and you just started driving, and there's roads everywhere. There's lots of different ways you can turn, and it feels great. You're moving, you're out, and you're in the world. You're trying things, you're driving around, you're seeing new things, and all of those things help with your experience, right? They're helping you to get better at driving. They're helping you to learn from those experiences, see new opportunities, see new things. You're out in the world. You're not sitting still. You're not stagnating, but the likelihood that you're going to get to the destination that you're intending to when you sit in a car and don't set that course, plot a course, it's near on impossible. It's virtually impossible unless by absolute fluke that you would get where you intended to go. How could you, if you had no sense of direction, you didn't understand the difference of north versus south, you've never traveled that path before, and you're just driving aimlessly hoping that you get there? You may end up somewhere cool, but it might not be where you're intending to go, right? So it's so vital to plot that course, define what your priorities are, and once you've done that, you can plot the course, right? So the step from here, the actionable thing that I think I would ask everyone to do, that's that's going through this right now, that's listening to the podcast or watching the video on YouTube, take the time after this episode, sit down, grab a pen and paper, or open up your notebook, your laptop, whatever, and go through the process. Make a coffee, make yourself a drink, something to eat, and sit and do yourself the favor of giving yourself the time, allowing yourself to consider where you'd like to go, right? Take the time, plan out, plot down what you want from life. And it doesn't have to be perfect first time, but you have to start the process. And once you've laid out a framework or a process, or you've mapped out some form of direction and course of action that you're planning to take, it's much easier to refine that and improve upon it when you're just tweaking or making minor adjustments and changes than starting from scratch and trying to rebuild it every single time, right? So you've got to give yourself that, lay the foundation, the groundwork, right? And once you've defined the priorities, right? The priority is the destination, right? As I say in the car analogy. Then the actions that you take is the course, right? That you're going to travel, the roads that you're going to navigate through to get to that end point. So this is a key thing. Once you've defined your priorities, you have to, it's imperative that you take actions that align with your priorities, right? And like the example I gave before, if you're intending to be a firefighter, you don't go to medical school. Those actions don't align. It makes no sense. There's no value in that. Like, yes, you might become a doctor, but why do you want to be a doctor if you're trying to be a firefighter? Are you going to feel fulfilled with that? Yeah, you'll make some great money. You'll have wonderful experiences. You provide opportunities, but that won't mean anything to you if it doesn't align with your priorities, right? So the actions that you take must align with the priorities, which is why you need to define the priorities first. Okay? And the easiest way to measure this and understand if you've done this correctly is that if the actions that you're taking once you've decided and defined what your priorities are don't move you towards your priorities or closer to the goal, then you've misaligned your actions and your priorities. It's really simple, easy to break it down when you look at it like that. What I'm doing now, is it moving me closer to my goals or further away? And then it's just a binary decision. Yes, no. You're not confusing it or complicating it, or you don't need to overanalyze it. It's simple. This stuff doesn't need to be complicated. You just have to understand the logical sequence and the steps and follow the steps. Right? These things work for me. They work for countless other people. These are the things that my mentors who have had the success that I'm looking for in my life have had. These are the things that they do and they do religiously. And I follow suit and I see my actions aligning with my priorities and I'm moving closer to my goals. And you can do the same thing. And ultimately, once you do this, you have a clear sense, right? Unequivocally, you know who you are. If you've defined your priorities, it's the result is beyond just understanding where you want to go. You're shaping, the person that you are becoming. You've decided who you want to be and where you want to be. Right? How powerful is that, and how much more clarity will you gain in your life when you know where you're going and who you are? It's different, right? There's a sense of calm and balance and peacefulness when you're clear on who you are and where you're going. You've got other things that are gonna be challenging and require you to be resourceful in life. But if you've laid that foundation and you have determined who you are and where you're going, you're a fair portion of the way there already. All you have to do now is just meet your future self, right? So and after that you understand what matters to you, and you know where you want to go. There's clarity and purpose and reason in your life. And these are the things that can remove stress and remove anxiety and remove depression and remove frustration. These are the things that I have gone through and seen the shift and change and the balance restored in my life from taking these actions. And I want the same thing for you. Okay? And when the most beautiful thing is more about yourself. You've gone through challenges. You're learning, you're creating, you're deciding, and you're becoming who you're meant to be. Right? All right, guys. I think that's a good note to leave off on. As always, I say it, who could you become? That's what this is all about, right? Becoming the best version of yourself. Self-mastery. Where you are today doesn't define where you're going to be tomorrow. Okay? Thank you so much for watching on YouTube. If you are, please click like, hit the subscribe button, share the video. The more of the content that you consume and watch and share, it helps the algorithm and helps me spread the message and get this out to more people and help more people and impact their lives for the better. If you're on the podcast, thank you so much for downloading and listening. I appreciate you being here, and I hope that you've got some value out of today's episode, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. All right, guys, this is Wade Vincent. Thanks again. See you later.